Leave abortion, you were pretty outspoken in 22 about Republicans needing to speak more about abortion after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It wasn't a successful year, I think, in 22 in a lot of races. Democrats were able to get the upper hand. I think the sense I have from Republicans, you even look at some of the Senate candidates, Kerry Lake in Arizona, Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania, they have shifted their abortion positions from 22. Like Trump, they seem wary of being seen as, a vote for me as a vote for restriction of abortion. How do you assess where Republicans are as a whole? Like, what is the downside of not taking a stand on 15 weeks or not being more vocal on the issue now? It appears to me that what happened in 22 is sort of happening again.
First of all, people should say what they believe and stick with it. That's number one. Regardless of the issue, you should stick with what you believe and keep articulating that. Otherwise, you get yourself in trouble, and you're not being you're not being honest about your own position. But the question you're asking me, and the question you're asking Carrie Lake and Dave McCormick and Donald Trump and the rest of them, you really should ask the Democrats. I would like to ask the Democrats and whoever debates Vice President Harris in what we hope will be at least one vice presidential debate, Michael, should ask her, Vice President Harris, in your own home state of California, abortion is basically allowed anytime, anywhere, anyone during any point in a normal pregnancy. To at least acknowledge science. Forget about your religion and morality for a moment or why you feel this way, but can I get you to acknowledge science? Science has shown us in the state of California and elsewhere that a baby can feel pain at 15 weeks, 20 weeks. There are, if you talk to surgeons that perform in vitro procedures on fetuses, they work on the hearts, the brains. Dr. Ben Carson has told me this. They anesthetize the unborn fetus, the unborn baby, at 15 weeks, sometimes earlier. And the only reason you and I get anesthesia, Michael, is if we can feel pain. So I think that's a sort of softer way of approaching this. And I believe the Democrats are becoming science deniers. I would ask Vice President Harris, can you come from 39 weeks, maybe over to, say, 20, 24 weeks, where babies are being born in the state of California, surviving and thriving? Can you come at a point in which babies in your own state now, they have names, they're part of the census of California, like you are, Vice President Harris? This is California. And I think that's a very good way to approach it. We never hear they don't seem to have any exceptions. And so I think it's a very important question to be asking both sides. And whether it's 15 weeks, 12 weeks, 10 weeks, 6 weeks, 24 weeks, I just believe these candidates should be forward facing, tell you what they believe, why they believe that, and stick with it. But this was my criticism in 2022, and it is my warning in 2024 for those not listening and taking what I think is not my advice, but solid advice. Is not necessarily my advice, but it is solid advice, which is this: if you are just hiding under your desk, hoping the shrapnel won't hit you, you're not listening to vote. It took 50 years to overturn Roe versus Wade. It's going to take more than hours, or indeed 50 weeks, to explain to people what that means. People were afraid, they were angry, they were frustrated, they were outraged. And some folks ran to the states and did these initiatives. We didn't take a penny from any of them. I thought many of them were poorly handled. I've said that many times. I'll say it again. They were poorly handled because you're not explaining to people what they would do and what they wouldn't do. And if in Kansas, the name of the initiative is, quote, no state constitutional right to an abortion, that's going to be hard to pass. If in Michigan, it's unfairly and deceptively named reproductive freedom for all, that's going to be hard to defeat. So people need to wise up, and I believe you have to understand that, understand where people are, understand where the consensus is. And then, Michael, the everybody's polling shows there is a consensus when you talk about either no abortion ever, that's a very small percentage of the population, like 8 or 9%, or to save life for the mother, or in cases of rape or incest conceptions. And then if you add the Dobbs fact pattern to that 15 weeks, let's just call it roughly the first trimester, you're up to about 70% of the country.